in this online PE and community coaching program. First of all, I would like to welcome our speaker, Sebastian Francis sir, in this program. I would like to brief about sir. Sir has experience as a physical educator and multi-sports coach with demonstrated history of working in education and the sports industry. He is skilled in grassroots sports physical literacy. He has designed curriculum, coach education, recreation and multi-sports facility management, and working with special needs student. He has a strong professional background with a Master of Science focused in fitness, exercise rehabilitation, nutrition from YMCA College of Physical Education, Chennai, and Bachelor of Physical Education from Lakshmibai National College of Physical Education, Gwalior. He has been a AIFFD license coach, Indian Blind Football Federation certificate coach, IBF certified grassroots badminton coach, Reebok International University certified Fit Kids trainer for children, and consultant of Retired P outsourcing company FC Madras. So with all this achievement, I would like to welcome you, sir, on this platform on behalf of Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Khelo India, and Lakshmibai National College of Physical Education. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahendra.
I also would like to welcome Sujit Panigrahi, sir. He is the CEO of Fitness 365, and he is one of the coordinator who is organizing this program, PN and community coaching program. So I welcome you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Session.
Good morning, Dr.
And I welcome all the participants. Without you, we cannot run this program. So I welcome you all in this session. Now I would like to invite Francis Sebastian, sir, for his session. Please, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay. So I'm going to just share the screen. A very good morning to everybody. This is a quick sound check. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay, thank you. So today we're going to be talking about sports and events in schools. So in this session, we'll be talking about, there'll be two parts to this. One is going to be about how we are going to focus on events, sports events in schools, and how we can organize our sports events in school. And the second part is about taking sports events out of school to a larger audience when you're going to be doing your zonals, your regional level tournaments, or you're just a district event, or you're bringing schools in together. So there are two parts to this. Now, when we talk about schools, it is very important that we focus on the three areas that we're looking at is participation of all children in school sports activity, sports specialization, pathways. Sorry, one second. Just a minute. Sports pursuit, sports excellence pathways, and an active lifestyle. A school is very important part of school education today is physical activity. And with our new national education policy announcement, we see that there is a lot more accommodations that have been made for physical activity in school. And schools are required now to make sure that their students are active And when we talk about being physically active in school, it's about actual PE classes before school and after school. Now, the next part of it is allowing the students in school to have opportunities to pursue their own individual sports talents. If somebody is talented in particular sports, they should be given the opportunities to excel in that particular sport in school, and the school should enable the children to have proper training and access to competitions. And the next pathway from there is the pathway for children to excel in sporting activities, going on to represent their district, their state, and then at the highest level, the national team. The daily sports opportunities in school. Currently, many of us have PE periods which are focusing on one class a week, or maybe the maximum would be 2 classes a week. And some very proactive schools have gone on and tried to bring in more periods of PE in school. It is not easy, depending again on the size of the school and the availability of facilities and the availability of teachers, PE teachers in school. So if we are going to be thinking about having the ideal PE program in the school, we are talking about 1 PE period per day. Is that going to be possible in many schools? No, it's not going to be possible. But at least we can focus on having 1 PE period a week, which would be the bare minimum. But if you can extend that to 2 PE periods a week, that will be a great start for your school trying to have a quality PE program. Along with the PE program, how we can make up these blocks of physical activity in school, it is not just about the 40 minutes or 45 minutes or 30 minutes of PE classes, but also the opportunities that are available in school for children to be active and taking part in unsupervised student-led sporting activities. And these sporting activities can always be encouraged before school starts for the day, when children come in early. And also after school, where children can, when they are waiting for their parents, and if they're not involved in sports teams, they can stay back and they can use spaces that are free and are not being used by sports school teams, and spaces around, and children just come up with their own games. But it's about providing them the space and making sure that it is safe for them to play inside school. One of the areas that we have to be very careful about when we are talking about unsupervised or supervised activities before and after school is safety. Safety is paramount. Make sure that the children have a safe environment wherever they are playing. If you have vehicles coming into your school, you got to make sure that the children are off those areas, that they're not in the direct path of vehicles that are coming into school. So, and also if they can be away from the general public that comes in to pick up children and drop children. So these areas should be very clearly demarcated where children can be playing and safe. The other opportunity in school to also add to the 60 minutes of PE physical activity every day is when teachers are given substitution periods. And sometimes in most of the schools in India, it's like the substitution period is considered a free period. So teachers go into a substitution class and you are not sure what you can do with the kids. But if you ask the children, 100% of the time, the children will say, we want to go outside and play. And many times, substitute teachers don't want to take up that additional responsibility of taking them outside to the play field. First thing, it could be the weather conditions, and they don't want to go outside and be in the sun and things like that. Second thing, there could be a lack of space. But whenever there are substitution periods and the substitute teacher is sent, if there is a system in place where the substitute teachers can always check in with the PE department and say like, hey, I've got the substitute period now. Is there some space where I can bring this class out? And can you make sure that I have some equipment available for my class? And there you have it. You have another 45 minutes of physical activity where the kids are going to be involved in a very active class. So try and encourage your teachers, the PE teachers. It's very important task that the PE department themselves will have to do, to go out and reach to the school management and also to your colleagues in the teaching faculty and tell them, you know, if you have a substitute period and you want to bring the kids out, and if the space, just check in with me and I'll be happy to have you there, and I'll try and find a space where you can keep the kids and they can do something. So make sure that we also use these substitution periods to add to the physical activity quota per day. Where is this part? Okay. Now, when we are talking about the importance of sports events and competitions, one of the key areas that we need to look at is, why are we doing these sports competitions? Who are we doing it for? And what is the purpose? Where and when are we going to do this? So when we ask the question why or who are we doing this for? And once we have the answer, then we can find a way of making sure that whatever we are trying to organize is age appropriate for that particular group and within that particular ability of that group. How do we plan for it? We will have a longer discussion as we go down into the event side of the whole thing. The next stage is to make sure that what is the purpose of this event? What are we trying to achieve by having this event? Is this going to be about having an inter-class competition, or is this about going to be showcasing the skills that the children have learned in the PE class? Or is this about marketing the school? Or is this about building friendships and collaboration with other schools? Or is it going to be something which we're going to do as a part of unified inclusive events? But it's also important to make sure that we also decide when we are going to do this event and where we are going to do it. Most of the time we would like to ideally do things within our school itself, because that when we do it within our school, this will help us to make sure that we have better control, because we are familiar with the place and we will be in a better position to execute the event much better than when we're going outside. So ideal thing is to try and do the event inside your own school. Now, one of the more important areas of the school sports program is to make sure that we are contributing towards the more important goal of more podium finishes for the country. And this starts at the base where we talk about the school program is going to be the grassroots development program. Once we start having a broad base in schools, the opportunity for more persons to come up onto the podium starts to increase. Whenever the base is much broader, and as we start excelling and going down into the district level, and then to the state level, and then to the national level, the podium finish is the number of people trying to come up onto the podium. The numbers are going to start changing. At the moment, we do not have a very strong, broad base, but we are building on this through various grassroots programs of different national federations, and also through the Sports Authority of India being very involved with Khelo India and a lot of other programs. So the base is widening now. The next stage of bringing from this wide base is how we are going to bring them into the other three phases of development, excellence at the state level, and then topping at the national level. Now, when we talk about sports development for school children, we are talking about starting with the whole school participation. The whole school participates. One is through the PE programs, and then we have the sports coaching programs. The PE program is the foundation of all the old school participation programs. When your PE program is a quality program, and I've mentioned about this in our previous lecture also, if we are going to follow a structured, progressive, development-based PE program, we are going to be creating a bigger base in our schools of children who are physically literate, children who are going to be coming in school and also progressing in school with a better confidence, with the better ability, the knowledge, and the motivation through physical literacy activities to be actively involved in sports. Once we move on from the PE class, the next stage is going to be about the sports coaching. Sports coaching also takes a very important place in school. Some schools have sports coaching as a part of their own school program. Some schools today have started outsourcing their sports coaching, and you have various suppliers and vendors, coaches because many schools may not have qualified coaches. So it makes a lot of sense to bring in companies that have got access to qualified coaches, and whichever is the sport that you want to excel in your school, you provide opportunities for your students to take part in those sports coaching programs. The other programs where we have mass participation in schools is our International Yoga Day, the National Sports Day, and our Fit India School Week. These are programs where we can generate a lot of interest in our students through mass participation and using these particular days to motivate the whole community to be more involved in sports. When we move up one step from this level is our intramural competitions in school. And our intramural competitions are also one of the stepping stones of our sports and events in schools. When we talk about intramural competitions, we have our inter-house competitions, we have inter-class competitions, we have our sports day, our field days, and then we talk about invitation to school team tryouts. These are all areas that help in creating this sports culture in schools. When you have competitions like this, children start slowly having this concept of teamwork. We build the concept of teamwork. We build the concept of children preparing to come and get ready for tryouts. So when you announce the tryouts for your team and you say, I'm going to be having the tryouts for the basketball team on this particular day, and it's going to be 2 or 3 days, and it's open to the children who want to come and try out, then everybody believes that I have a fair shot and I can go and try out there. So tryouts help to build this culture of sports in school, and also it is a very transparent system where children know that the best people in school have been selected to represent their school team. Tryouts may not be possible for inter-house competitions and inter-class competitions. I think this is where we have to let students lead this themselves. And when you have a culture that has already been established in school of having a transparent school team selection, the same process will happen when we guide our students to do their own selections for their house teams and their class teams. Of course, there will be the usual someone coming in complaining that I was not given a fair chance to be in the school team or in the class team or the house team, and the house captain or the class captain chose his best friend. So this is where you are going to step in and have a discussion with everybody involved, and where we are going to be promoting dialogue. So all these things are a process of developing the whole personality of the child through sports events in schools. Once we move in from our intramural competitions, we are going on now to the next phase where we're talking about participating in inter-school competitions and also hosting competitions in school. So when we are participating in competitions outside, again, the process of tryouts for the school team, having a season, preparing for the season, making sure if it's a football team, you know who's your first 11, finding your players for key roles inside your team, making players understand the importance of their roles in the team, making sure your substitutes also feel as a part of the team and that they also have a vital role to play, arranging for practice matches. It's the whole process that goes on. And then when you have an opportunity to host a full-fledged tournament or also to host mini competitions inside your school, giving a chance for you to also put in practice your sports event management skills, and also an opportunity for your children to take part in smaller competitions. The next level as we move on is going to be the cluster, the zonal and the regional competitions, where now once the children have participated, and if they have been fortunate and if they have been trained well enough to win their own level and go up to the interzone and the cluster levels, now they realize that if we want to be a really competitive team there, we have to raise our standards and we have to prepare. It's not just about going and participating and coming back. Whenever this is the more important thing about our children being taught, that when we participate, it's not just about going and participating at the higher level competitions. It's about going there and giving your best performance, giving it your best effort. So the results might be something which may not be favorable to us, but that is irrespective. Let us not focus on the results. It's going to be more about how we prepare and how we represent our school at these competitions. This is the most important thing. And then as we go up higher, we go to the national level. Some of our children are going to be spotted. They're going to go on and represent the national team. And when they go up to the national team, the recognition comes back to the school. It comes back to the PE department. It comes back to the coaches. Now we talk about expanded participation opportunities in sporting, outdoor, leisure, and nature. So now when we talk about these three areas, outdoor and leisure activities and nature, now most of our activities are outdoor. So when we talk about our sports tournaments, we have domestic competitions, international competitions, in school, inter-school, and preparatory competitions and friendly matches. So all these are a part of the school sports event setup, where you will be required as the head of school, the PE department in school, or as a member of the PE department team, to bring your event management skills into place there. You're going to be using all your event management skills to successfully run these programs. The other opportunity is going to be about nature. When we talk about nature, we are talking about forest schools. When you talk about forest schools, this is about introducing in physical education. One of the important areas that we have been taught is camping and a love for the outdoors. Is it possible for urban schools to try and introduce your kids to outdoor life and camping? Yes, it is possible, but it's going to require a lot of planning, working with various vendors. And if you are lucky and if you have a school that is situated in a hilly region, I mean, we always think about camping, it's always going to be camping in the hills. So if we are living in a hilly region and you're able to take your kids out for a trek, it's great. You can, and it's very scenic, you can do that. If you're living in an urban area, it's not going to be possible. It's not going to be possible, but you can do walks in a city. You can take your kids out for a walk in a city. You can organize bike rides inside your city for your students, but that's going to be requiring a lot of planning from your side. How are we going to get our kids doing different things? School camps, another very important process in the development of the child in the rite of passing in school. So we always focus on how can we create this camp atmosphere. And most of us in physical education know that when we are doing our physical education undergraduate program, we are always introduced into camping. And we have had the luck, especially for those of us in Gwalior and LNCP, we have had the most amazing camping experience in Pachmari. And in Pachmari, it is a fantastic camping setup that has been provided by the Bharat Scouts and Guides. And they do have many scouting centers and camping sites all around the country. And if we can have access to these camps, camping sites, you can conduct your outdoor camps there. You can also look at having sports themed camps. And then the other thing is to look at a different kind of theme camps where you're looking more at historical camps where you're going to a place and looking more at the history perspective of the place. So camps can be various type of camps. And when we talk about events with sports, we have sports days, we have health days, we have tours, we have challenge days, we have sports quizzes, and we have flash mobs. Sports quizzes and flash mobs are sort of some of the things that are very much trendy these days. And flash mobs can be anything where you're just doing a pickup game in the middle of nowhere. The kids get together and suddenly decide like, okay, we're going to have a kabaddi match in the middle of this place here, like, and everybody else, they set it up and they quickly do a kabaddi game down there. So flash mobs can be created on a sports theme also. Inter-house and inter-class competitions. Now, when we talk about the early stage of schooling, we're looking at our LKG to class 2. That is what we call lower elementary and kindergarten line. And over there, we want to have, when we're doing our competitions, it's not going to be on teams because the younger children do not understand the concept of teams. It's more about me and myself. And we want to encourage that through an exploratory method. So whenever we are doing our competitions for them, we would be focusing on them doing it as a class unit and more about their individual self. So creating stations for them where they can come in as a class unit, go and experience different stations and practice the same PE skills that they've been learning in class. As we progress to upper elementary, that is class 3, 4, 5 or upper primary, this is where we can start slowly introducing the concept of teams, class teams, and the importance of how you start collaborating and working with each other in a team environment. And the next phase of middle school is going to be class 6 to 8, and a very vital role area in the development of children, where everything that we tell them, they are going to soak it in, like, and they are also going to be in a stage of their growth where they question things. So here is the opportunity for us to get them involved in planning, in executing, and also making them understand a lot more about collaborative work and how teams function. Selection of teams, giving your team a name, and how do you contribute to the overall success of the team. And as we go into high school, class 9 and 12, now here it's more about the team. It's a very strong, very strong identification of themselves as being a member of a group or of a team. Competitions in sports and schools is important as facilities are in-house and popular with the students. Now, when we do our competitions in school, over most of our schools, we have, some of them are blessed to have very good facilities, and some of them lack facilities. But that should not limit us from our creative thinking and coming up with creative ideas of how we can use the resources, how we can use the space that we have, and come up with ideas of still involving our children in various kinds of competitions. And when we talk about competitions, let's make sure that if you are in a co-educational school, look for opportunities to have mixed gender participation. When we encourage our children to have mixed gender participation, which automatically happens up to upper primary level to class 5 in most schools. And when children start coming to class 6, 7, and 8, and that is where when puberty hits in, that you'll find that children start to drift apart, and you see the segregation slowly happening, boys, girls. And, the boys start to ignore the girls, and they always feel that the girls are less athletically inclined, and they don't want the girls to be a part of the team. But this is where the PE department starts bringing in the aspect of mixed gender sport to make sure that boys learn to respect the athletic ability of girls and get them involved in whatever that they are doing. We want to have competitions that are exclusive for boys. We want to have competitions that are exclusive for girls, but we also want to encourage mixed gender competitions. And the same way, we also want to talk about and make sure that we are providing an inclusive element inside school. If you have children with special needs in your school, make sure that you create a support system for them also to be involved in your sports and competitive programs. They may not be able to be involved full-fledged. Some of them could be with higher ability functioning where they can be involved. Some of them might be with lower ability functioning. So try and find to create opportunities for them to be involved so that you can promote gender sensitivity and respect for each other. When we talk about our primary sports and events, we have all of you, I'm sure, will have fantastic ideas. And today, where we use, especially at COVID times, people that have not been using the internet have already migrated to the internet now. And as you start discovering the accessibility of how you can use this internet-based programs, you can come up with a whole lot of ideas. We don't have to be stuck with the old ideas that we have been having. But if you do a bit of research, if you spend some time finding out, okay, let me see what I can do for my children. There are a whole lot of events. There are tons of events there. There are tons of websites. If you go to PinIt, if you go to Shape America, there are so many. If you go to Special Olympics International, you go to Special Olympics Bharat, you go to FIT, the Khelo India programs, you are going to find a whole lot of ideas that can help you to create variety in your events for your primary school children. And don't forget, as I said earlier, with the younger ones from the lower primary section up to class 2, let's focus on how they're going to have a fun element where they're going to be practicing and using the skills that they've learned in PE classes. And with the children in the upper primary, that is class 3 to 5, we can focus more on team and the physical literacy skills and the skills that are going to be slowly transferring into a sports environment with other sports and games. Middle school, as I said, now once they come in from upper primary, the competitive element starts slowly disappearing. The competitive element starts to improve now. The identification with teams starts to improve. Children want to be recognized by their peers, and you slowly find children who have got more confidence, children who have got better sporting abilities will slowly start to come out of the pack and start shining. And it is very important that we pass on this same ability to all our children in our classes in middle school. As we say, we want this broad-based, a very broad-based program for our middle school children, where every single one of them is going to be equipped with the tools to develop their personality through participation in sports activities. And when we are doing our sports activities for children, again, it's going to come down to your own ingenuity, how you are going to be creative, and what are the kind of activities that you're going to be including into your sports events in school. You can have your traditional sports days. You can also have your inter-class, inter-house matches. You can have challenges in school challenges. You can have team challenges. You can have personal fitness challenges. You can have just pick-up game challenges where the kids are doing it on their own and coming back and giving you results. A whole lot of things. And today, as the learning has moved online, you can create better challenges for your students to be doing online. High school, we are always talking about class 9 to 12 in high school. And over there, our biggest thing there is going to be the sports day. It's one of the most awaited events that all students in high school look forward to. And my suggestion, as I've always said to to all of you wherever I speak, is to try and make sure that you provide opportunities for maximum participation in your sports days. Try and make sure that you limit the individual number of events a person can take, so that you can put more people onto the podium, even in your sports day. One of the things that happens very commonly in the past is that if you go to a sports day and if there is a super senior event happening, you will literally find the same person on the podium for the 100 meters, the 200 meters, the long jump, the relay. You will find the same guy, first place, this one, same again, first place, this one, or the first, second, and third will be moving around a small group of boys. So try and restrict the number of events a person can take, because it's a school sports day. And you know that the talent of your students, when you're going to have an open tryout, you're observing them during your PE classes, you're observing them. So you can invite them and not use the sports day as a trial for selecting your school team. Give an opportunity for more students to come out and participate and come up onto the podium. So as we talked about earlier, one of our slides, it's about how we are going to have more podium finishers. We can have more podium finishers by making sure that we have a broad participation base. Now, when we talk about our sports day, now our sports day, is it going to be a day or is it going to be a sports week? The traditional method of doing sports day is a day, where we are talking about 3 hours of running the whole school through a sports day. That is starting from KG up to class 12. And that becomes, it's easy for you as an event person to conduct in just one day, and it's done. But if you start thinking differently, why are we doing these sports day? You ask this question, why? Is it about just having an event and just saying, okay, sports day is done, we finish the sports day? Or do you want to say, I want to do a quality sports day where I am going to be giving maximum participation. I'm going to be giving the opportunity for almost 80% of my students to come out on sports day and actively participate in the sports day events. Because in a traditional sports day, a single day sports day, the numbers show that only 10 to 15% of the students will be actively involved in the sports day. The others are just going to be playing supporting roles, taking part in dances, taking part in drills, taking part in march past. But the active participation in the events that are happening on that day will be a very, very small, limited number. Let us think about how we can change this. Why don't we think about having a sports day that will give opportunities for everybody to take part by staggering the sports day? Have an elementary sports day, and which can also again be broken down into a lower elementary sports day, an upper elementary sports day. So lower elementary will be kindergarten to grade 2, and upper elementary will be grade 3 to grade 5, middle school grade 6 to grade 8, and then a high school sports day. And using the same time frame, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, you can make sure that you are creating a platform and a stage for a large number of your students to take part on that sports day. And also giving an opportunity for your parent community to be involved in the sports day in a smaller setting. So when you have just the lower elementary parents coming, the connect between the lower elementary parents will be much better than when you have a large sports day where it's going to be parents from KG all the way up to class 12. And so when you do that, a smaller group, the parents are going to be connected better, and you're going to have better parent participation. So the sports day should be about the whole school community coming in together. There might be the drawback that when you have the sports day for the high school, that there might be limited participation of the parents. But in the beginning, you might find that. But as your sports days become a tradition that it's going to be only high school, and then you will find there are more parents who are coming out, and you find when they realize that my child is just not going to be taking part in a drill or in a march past or a display, but is actively going to be doing something on the sports day, you will find that more parents are willing to come out and spend some time on their sports day cheering and supporting their kids. So try and look for opportunities on how you can spread the sports day out. You, sorry, just give me a minute, please. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. So try and look at how you can spread this out. You can do it either as a week, a sports week, which will be one in terms of organization for you. It might be a little easy because if you're doing a ground setup, you can use the same ground setup for the next 3 days, or stagger them through the year in terms. And ideally, it would be that you would do the high school, do it as a backward design, starting from high school and then going back. So start with the high school in the first term, because most high school students, as soon as first term is over, they will start having the pressure of exams, and board exams will start creeping in. So in the first term, if you can start focusing on the high school, and middle school can come into second term, and then the elementary school or primary school can come into the third term. So that can be staggered through the whole year. So now we're talking about celebrating National Sports Day, which is just coming up on just 2 days away from now. It's National Sports Day is happening on the 29th. And this is National Sports Day, I think, was set up in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. I might be right, I might be wrong.
2012, yes.
Okay, thank you. So we celebrate the birthday of Major Dhyan Chand, hockey legend. And this year, unfortunately, we will not be in school to celebrate National Sports Day. But it's a fantastic opportunity for us to take this whole thing online and get the parent community involved and find ways of how we can promote this National Sports Day into a wider audience. Because if we were doing it in school, it would be just our school students alone. But now when we start putting ideas in the next 2 days into our children, and I'm sure many of us are taking online PE classes now, let's think of how we can have, give ideas to our children to have walking sessions, have running sessions within their own community, dance, play any sport at home, just free exercises. Keep yourself active, physically active, and do it as a family, do it as a community. And if you are living in an apartment complex, try and have a complex-based sports day. I mean, the ideas can be unlimited. So, and once our children are doing this, they can also upload whatever they have done to this website there, which is very, please note that website is goforfit.in, where they can upload the images of what kind of activities they were doing on National Sports Day. Either they can do it directly as individuals, or if the school wants to, you can collect all these photographs and upload them to the site as a school program. And you will be able to access a certificate of participation for the school, for the parents, and the students. So this is a fantastic opportunity for everybody to spread the message of being active on National Sports Day through physical activity. So please make sure that you pass this message and share this message to your students tomorrow, or even today. Some of you have got classes coming up. Share this message to them about National Sports Day, and let them also understand the history behind National Sports Day. And National Sports Day is not something that is only unique to India. Lots of countries around the world have national sports days. There are certain countries in the world that used to basically shut off city centers and have it only as pedestrian and bicycle access to vast areas of their city center, and just set up sports activities in the middle of the cities, in the streets, where kids, families, communities could come out and participate. I'm sure this must be still happening in certain parts of Europe, wherever they are, even in COVID-19 times, with higher safety protocols. But since we have not yet come out with our safety protocols for return to sport, We have come out only for our elite athletes, but as our community, we still haven't come out. So it would be advisable to stay within our smaller groups and promote the cause of physical activity by celebrating National Sports Day on the 29th. It can also, it's also being progressed as a week, as I said, so it's a National Sports Day is going on as a whole week, all the way up to the 5th of September. We also have one of our programs that comes from the center, which is the Fit India School Week, that happens again in November, December. And this is also, again, a new opportunity for us to take this online and find new ways of how we are going to be using the Fit India School Week to promote physical activity. One of the sites that I would recommend to all of you is, I had it on my thing, but just please note this down. It's called DareBe, darebe.com, as in D-A-R-E, B for boy, E for England, and E for England, darebe.com. And it's a fantastic site that have got work cards, worksheets, which you can share with your students for your online classes. But more importantly, you can use this during the Fit India Week to promote physical fitness for all age groups. It's a fantastic site. Please do visit that site. It's a free site. And if you want to make a contribution to that site, you can also contribute any amount that you want. But it is a fantastic resource for physical educators. Please make sure you visit that site, darebe.com. Now, the Fit India School Week, again, this is something that used to happen as a whole school-based program, but it's going to be an online program unless things change for us dramatically and we are all able to be back in school very soon. But we can go about designing a Fit India School Week online. Let's try and see how we can do this program online and make sure that we have our students actively taking part in this Fit India Week. Let's talk to our students when we are doing this Fit India Week about their personal fitness, how they can improve their personal fitness for whatever age group they are in, and give them ideas and advice on how they can be physically active for their own age groups. A second and most important aspect of the Fit India School Week is we should never forget about our nutrition aspect. Making sure that we are providing them information, all that they need on how to get the best nutrition possible with whatever is their local diet. Making them understand the importance of eating healthy and staying healthy through a proper nutritious program. Next one is going to be about basic fitness assessment. Try and find ways that you can ask your children to do their own personal fitness assessment. For our very young ones, we can always ask them, how many sit-ups can you do? How many squats can you do? How long can you hold the upper position in a push-up position as a plank? So various types of fitness assessments can be suggested to the students. And this is about them assessing their personal self. You're not trying to compete with anybody. We're not setting benchmarks for you. But this is about you as an individual and then finding your own progression as you go along. Quiz and also creating opportunities for our parents and the staff to be involved. And online, also promoting our traditional, regional, and indigenous games. The gift of India to the world, yoga. This is one of our biggest programs, the International Yoga Day, which has grown tremendously in the last few years, has become a part of the UN calendar. Many countries around the world have adopted 21st June as the International Yoga Day, and they are working on promoting yoga in their own way in their different countries. Now, when we talk about Yoga Day, when we are back in school, we are talking about how we're going to have mass assemblies, mass participation, And hopefully by the next International Yoga Day, we will definitely be back in school, I'm sure. And we also have to think about how we can start thinking differently with yoga. Not just think about yoga as being a practice that has to be done for 10 to 15, 20 minutes at a stretch. How can we break this down into smaller blocks, finding asanas, finding yogic activities that can be done inside the classroom, and where children are given a whole set of tools, of yoga tools, when they say like, if you are feeling down this way, why don't you try this asana? This might help you. Pranayama, it is one of the biggest parts of yoga, that we want to make sure that most of our children understand that when they are in stressful situations, how you can use pranayama to help you to come out of the stress and regulate your breathing and bring about a better inner calmness to your own self. Outside of school competitions, we have a whole lot of sports competitions that happen, sports and events when we talk about it. We could have just friendly games. You might be having a tournament that you participate. It could be a knockout tournament. It could be a one-day tournament. It could be a knockout tournament that happens over a week, or it could be a league. Now, when we are talking about these tournaments, it's very important that when we are creating our teams, whether it is for our, as I said earlier, it is our inter-class and inter-house matches, we ideally want our students to lead these programs in terms of selections, being guided by the teachers, the house teachers or the PE department, or when it is an inter-class match, the class teachers can also guide the students so that we have more involvement of other teachers in the school in the creation of these teams. But when it comes to the school teams, we are going to be making sure that the PE department, the athletic department, or the coach who's in charge of that team is the person who's going to set the tone for the whole team for that particular academic year. He's going to be creating the tryouts, he's going to be creating the match schedules, the training programs, and also how you are going to be creating the branding of your school teams. One of the most important areas of a school is to have the school connect through a particular kind of an image, which could be mostly, it is always animal based, where the whole school, as parents, as teachers, as students, as a community, you can connect by saying that we are, like, for example, like in Chennai, you have the cricket team, you say the Chennai Super Kings, and they have the logo, the lions. And some schools have got the raptors, some schools have got the geckos, some schools have got the leopards. So find a kind of animal that you can associate as the image of your school and create a school branding, so that when children leave school, that they always, whenever they see that, they always remember that, hey, when we were in school, this was our image for us. I can give you one of the examples, as I've also mentioned before, like when I was in St. Mary's, Dubai, we created this brand because it is St. Mary's, it's S-T and M-A-R-Y-S, St. Mary's. But we created the brand for our sports team with Saints, with an S-A-I-N-T and with a running Z. And so whenever the kids took part, the idea of representing the Saints and wearing the Saints jersey, getting that Saints colors was a big, big thing for the students. So the same way, your school colors, your school image, your school branding should become a matter of pride for all your students, and everybody who's participating in school activities should desire to get that school logo onto their shirts and to have the school shirt. Whenever we are doing our sports and events, it's very important for us to make sure that we have a full-fledged flow for our sports events, or whatever event that we are doing. If you're doing a sports day, we are looking at starting off, most of our traditional sports day, we start off with some kind of displays. Let us look at how we can bring in actual sporting activities into the displays, more than having dances. Let's bring in, dance is also an important part of PE, but don't forget, in our school setup, we always have places We have stages for our dancers to perform in our annual days, in our parents' day, in schools, program that are happening on stage. So let us use our sports days exclusively for promoting our sport-based activities as displays on sports days. We have our chief guest who will be there. Let's make sure we have an opening ceremony that includes a message from our chief guest, march past, oath taking, and then having a quick brief to your audience about the flow of the events. And also here, it's very important once the races are started, make sure if it's your sports day that you do not have a very large award ceremony at the end of the day, because by the time we come down to a 2.5 hour event, everybody around you is tired, energy levels are dropping, and people want to get on and move away from the event. So make sure that you stagger your award distribution for individual events through the meet itself, so that when you come into the final award ceremony, your final gathering of all the athletes, your award ceremony should be pretty much focused on only the final trophies, the group awards and things like that, and not individual medals for 100 meters, 200 meters. So it's going to be a long process. You want to make sure that it's cut down and it's very minimal. And of course, at the end of the event, make sure you say your thank yous to everybody, your guests, your parents, your students, your participants who are coming from outside, who have helped you to support and make this event a great day for you. So that was how we were talking about the first part. As I said, now we're moving on to the second part. Sujit, and do we want to take a small, any questions from any participants at this moment regarding events in school before we move on to the planning stage for events at a larger scale? Hello. Yeah, okay, see. Let's check.
We can hear you.
Yeah, okay. We want to take some questions, Sujit, from anybody regarding the first half, and then we can move on to the second.
I think let's do it at the end only.
At the end only. Fine. So we keep going. All right. Right. When we are planning a larger event now, when you're talking about a larger event, now we are talking about, if you in the school context, we're talking about a regional event in the state or a district level event. So planning, budgeting, sponsors, marketing, media management, operations, bringing in experts and infrastructure are going to be the various subtopics that will be making an important play when you are hosting an event. Now, when we are hosting any kind of sports event, the most important thing is, the first thing is to set the date and the time. The date is very important because once we have fixed a date in now, this is going to help us to start planning everything from that date. And make sure that whenever you're planning a large scale event, that you have sufficient time for your preparation. So ideally, you're looking at 8 weeks. If you have about 8 weeks, this will give you plenty of time to make sure that your event is prepared at a very, very high standard. Now, when you're planning this event, you want to know what, again, we're going to be talking about the who, the why, the what, and the when. So who's going to be involved in this event? Why are we planning this event? What is the purpose of this event? All these, the 4 W's are going to be coming back there. And you're going to be talking about your manpower. You're going to be talking about who are the people who are going to be helping you set up your refreshments, who's going to be setting up your equipment. So there's a whole lot of things that you will be happening when you're doing an event. We'll be discussing them each one by one as we go through. One of the earliest aspects of any event is to make sure that you have a budget and you stay within your budget. Now, the first thing is going to be now the cost of the venue, because the location is going to be important. If it's within your own school, fine, you don't have much of a cost there. But if you're going to go outside of your school and you're going to hire a facility, then make sure that you have sufficient budget, sufficient resources in your budget to support the cost of hiring a facility. Coming down to equipment, ideally you want to use all the equipment that you have, but if you need to bring in equipment from outside, again, make sure that you have budgets for equipment. Anytime we are organizing an event, major part of our budget is going to be towards prize money, if you have a prize money. And of course, when you say prize money, it can be cash, it can be in terms of trophies, medals, certificates, anything that goes on towards the prizes. And during the event, it's going to be about your refreshments. It's going to be about the transportation of your athletes, if you're going to be having it at an outside venue. And once your venue, the event is over, the most vital and important element of any event is post-facility cleanup of the facility. Post-cleanup is one area that we terribly lack in many of our sporting events. So when we go in for a sporting event, we try and make sure that the venue is all set up, decked up, done up, because we are going to start the event. But once the event is over, trust me on this, everybody in your support team will leave and you will be left with very few people who are going to help you with your cleanup post-event. Ideal way of making sure that you have sufficient funds for your event is to find potential sponsors. Now, when we are bringing in sponsors, it is very important that the sponsor identifies with your event, and the sponsor should have a good buyback. What kind of an audience is going to be available for my product? Are you going to be giving me space to sample the product? Are you going to be giving me branding rights to the event? Are you going to be giving me places to make sure that I have visible signage all around? So sponsors are going to be looking for, they want mileage. They want take back from whatever they're going to be investing into your event. And it's very important that once you identify a sponsor, that you have a contract with your sponsors. You could have an individual contract with various sponsors, or you could have an individual sponsor who's covering the whole event. But try and make sure that you have a written contract with your sponsors, because this makes clear to all parties involved that we have an agreement here and this is how it's going to be happening. In some situations, it might be there that you go on mutual trust, and it's about how you have a relationship with your sponsors. In smaller towns, in smaller communities, you might just be approaching an individual to support your event. And they might be just saying, like, I'm happy to just give you this financial contribution, which you can use. And, there is no contractual obligations. So that's fine. But when you're working on a bigger event, it's very important that you make sure that you have contractual obligations from all parties involved. Marketing the event is a very important part of large-scale events, and this is where your sponsors get value for their money. So the more you are marketing the event, the more it's visible on various platforms. Is it available on the print media? Is it available is it available online? So these are the areas where potential sponsors are going to be interested in your event. So it is very important that you make sure that you have regular announcements about your event happening to build up. The build up towards the event is very important. So if you look at it now, one of the primary examples of companies that are involved in building up the momentum towards the event now, IPL was something which was a very big part of all Indians' lives for the last 10 years. And now the IPL has moved out of India. It has moved into a bubble in the UAE, and it's going to be minus spectators. It is not just the IPL, but it is all major sporting events around the world that have gone into bubbles, minus spectators. But that does not stop the organizers of these particular events, whether it is the television partners or it is the hosting companies. making sure that they are continuing with the promotion of the event as if it was a live event. They are still continuing with the promotion and making sure that people are constantly hearing about this event and hoping that the television audience will tune in. And all the numbers that have been coming back, the data that has been coming back, especially for those of you who have been following football, you will realize that the European Champions League final had one of the largest television audience, despite not having a live audience in the stadium. So the online presence has become very, very important, and online broadcasting of the event, which is much, much cheaper today because you have so many methods of broadcasting your event live online, and you don't need to have major cameras or anything for that. Today, there are ways that you can actually broadcast a live event from your school using just your phone and a good internet connection. So make sure you're marketing your event well, and your sponsors will be coming in and lining up at your door. Media management. This is a very important role of any sporting event, and ideally you want to have, at a large scale event, you want to have an exclusive person that is handling only media relations. So that person will be totally focusing on communicating all the aspects of this event to media. And if you're doing it in school, sometimes you might find teachers who have got a better way of handling this part of the media management. So try and find resources within your own school of teachers or your IT teachers. Get them involved to handle the media part of your school sports events. Personnel management. This is going to be an area which will test everybody's management skills. Identifying the amount of people that you want involved in your event, and making sure that you're matching people and their skills to the roles. So make sure that when you have somebody, that they understand the role that they're going to be involved in, and that they have the skill set to execute that role very clearly. Whenever you are selecting people for managing large-scale events, it's very important that you have a non-discriminatory policy, and you recruit people irrespective of gender and irrespective of their age. Age is a very vital factor now that very people are looking at. You don't want to look at somebody and say, oh, you are 55 like me, and say, I don't think we have space for somebody who's older. But somebody who's older is going to be coming in. If the person is able to deliver, they are going to be coming in with a whole lot of experience, which can always enhance and add value to whatever you are trying to do to your events. When you have people in your allocated to various roles, it is also important that you orient them. Have briefings regularly for your team before the event, and then break them down into smaller groups and orient them into their roles and how it's going to be happen. And they also know the chain of command. It's very important when you have people in your team that they know, if I have a problem, who is the person am I going to approach? So make sure the chain of command is clear to everybody involved in the team, and it's visible. It should be visible whenever you're having your meetings. Compensate and equitably and reward outstanding work. If you have a budget where you are able to compensate people, it is very important that we appreciate people who come forward to render their service. But try and make sure that you have a budget where you can also compensate them for bringing in their expertise and their time to your event. Preparation of food items, finding vendors, these are all very key areas of any kind of sports event. So please pay a lot of attention to these areas. Pre, during, and the post event. Make sure that the task list, that everybody is responsible for their tasks, and the aspects of the timelines for completion of each task before the event. So you want to make sure that you are closing and preparation for your event 48 hours before. If you give yourself that 48 hours buffer, then in case that you have delays in setting up something, you will always have time to address these issues. As you run the clock down to zero, it is very important that you have this buffer of 48 hours. Make sure that 48 hours before your event, that everything is in place. And that will give you the energy, it will give you the time, and all your resources can be devoted towards conducting a fantastic event. Now, when your event is on, make sure that your teams are on task. And as we say, Murphy's Law, always plan for contingencies. There could be potential contingencies that can come up from natural disasters. It can come up from rain. It can come up from thunder and lightning, loss of electricity. And these are things where you should have a plan B and how we are going to do it. But there are some contingencies that you don't have to worry about. If your chief guest is late, I would suggest that you just get on with your event, because your event has got a time schedule. Your time schedules have to be met. So these are the things that you cannot plan for. But the things that you don't have to plan for, but the things that you can plan for are when something goes wrong, make sure that you have a plan B and that immediately kicks in. On the day of the event, if, as the chief of the organizer, the tournament director, or whatever you want to give your the title, make sure that you are monitoring all aspects of the event, and your managers in different locations are taking care, and that you are free to step back and let your event managers run the event on site. And your role should be to be troubleshooting. If there is a trouble happening in there, it's what you're going to be is doing, standing back and supporting your areas where they have trouble and putting out the fires. We are very concerned about our environment. We are looking at how we can make sure that whatever event that we are doing, we are focusing on an eco-friendly event. Let's make sure that we follow the policy of reduce, reuse, and recycle. Whenever we are having our events, make sure that our waste footprint is a very, very minimal waste footprint. There are many ways that we can do this. One of the easiest thing is when we start talking about water. Many times we find that we go for events that we find paper cups thrown all over the place. Or we will find water bottles. People buy water and they throw bottles everywhere. If we can encourage people to come to events with their own water bottle, and if we have water filling stations where people can go up, hygienic water filling stations, this is very important. People are concerned about the quality of the water. But you have to ensure that somebody can come up to you and they have a water bottle, they can go to a station and they can fill up their own water bottle. In this way, the moment we are doing this, if we have about 1,000 people at an event, you are basically going to reduce your waste footprint by at least 90%. 90% you can reduce the waste footprint. Same way, try when you are having food and eatables, try and use eco-friendly plates, spoons, which can be put into a bin and it can be sent off into trash bins that can recycle these products. Try not to use a lot of plastic, and also all the hoardings that come up for your event, the banners and the marketing tools that you use for setting up displays. Find ways of how you can recycle all those areas. Send them off to your art department. If you have banners and things like that, and your art and craft department, they can use them in various ways when they're doing programs in school. Taking care of teams, make sure that you have a good system that takes care of your players, coaches, support staff, and the organizers. When your teams arrive, it's very important that the teams have got access to quality facilities for training. The equipment that they need for training is given to them, which is supposed to be given by the organizers. High quality, first aid, and safety. The food aspects should be nutritious, and make sure that security and clean lockers are available for your teams that are coming in. Transportation is also another very key area in terms of providing support for the teams. And when you have a larger scale events and you have to provide practice facilities for your teams, obviously you will not be using your main venue for practice unless it's it's an indoor facility. Then it's okay if you have timelines. But if you are not able to use your own facility, then have access provided for teams in neighboring places where they can go in and train. So to summarize, fixed days when you're planning your events, plan well in advance. As I said, 8 weeks is the timeline that you want to have. And prior to the event, 48 hours before the event, you want everything in place for your event. Make sure everybody in your team is in the loop and everybody knows their roles and are prepared for everything that is going to be thrown at them. And most importantly, have fun when you're organizing events. Enjoy the aspect, the buzz of having an event. What I want to close is this particular slide here. And this is an image that I found. Sports is the most powerful teacher of life. And for me, this has personally been my journey in sports. I have learned everything from sports. A lot of my knowledge that I have today has come from being involved in the sports environment. So continue to be inspired, take care of yourself, stay safe, and a happy National Sports Day to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Can you stop sharing, sir?
Yep.
There is lots of questions, sir. I'll just ask. The first question is, how to create the interest among students to participate in different sports event, like intramural, extramural, how we can create the interest among the students?
Now, this is going to, as I said now, if there is an existing culture in your school of participation in sports events, then you have already established it. But for schools that don't have this, it's going to be a challenge. But this is a fantastic challenge for you to have. You can always start small. Think about having just one sport. Don't try and go very big in the beginning. Just have one sport. And the more important element here is making sure that when you want to have an inter-class or an inter-house tournament, that your students have the skill set that has been taught to them in the PE class. So this is where you need to have an active, progressive, curriculum-based PE class where the children have been taught the skills to participate in a particular inter-class or inter-house tournament. So creating the skill sets in the students is the first thing, and telling them that, yes, when you learn these skills, let's say, for example, we have a football field in school, and that's the only thing that you have. If you have taught your children the basics of football, the dribbling, passing, shooting, understanding what is a team, how you play in a team, and you can break them down to smaller tournaments, 5-a-side, 3-a-side, and then 11-a-side. So create this culture, but make sure your students have got the skills to participate in team competitions.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Next question is that, what is the difference between sports and game? Sir, it is simple but very typical, sir.
They're all coming back to sports and game.
Yeah.
Right. Now, when we talk about sports and games, let's make it, this is my definition to you. Now, when we talk about sports, this is an organized setup. It's got rules, it's got federations, it's got progression from juniors to a beginners, grassroots, under 12, under 13, under 15, and it goes on. When we talk about games, like I said now, we're talking about 60 minutes of physical activity. And I said, we have PE class and we have games, unorganized games before school, unorganized games after school. And it could be anything. Kids could be standing around and it's examination time. You find kids having a game of cricket. And what kind of cricket are they playing? No, they're not having a ball. They don't have a bat. They don't have stumps. They're using their examination pad. They rolled up a ball from they tore some pages from their notebook. They made a small ball and they're whacking it around each other. and they're running from one place to another. That's a game. They have reinvented the game of cricket to suit what they want. So in the simple text is sports is got a set of defined rules and there is a result at the end of it. Games is just for fun and enjoyment and nobody's bothered about winning and losing.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. There is lots of question regarding, sir, how to organize the competition, how to organize the event with less money or less facility, less infrastructure. So can you just brief it, sir?
This is one of the biggest challenges that most PE teachers face in school: a lack of a budget, a lack of funding for your sports activities, and that should not limit you. As I said, like we have to be advocates for our programs, and the advocacy that we are going to show for our programs is going to come from our enthusiasm. How we are going to project this energy first. It's about the energy that you are going to project to your school management, to the fellow teachers and the students in your school with whatever you have. If you don't even have money to give them medals, but if you can still tell your children, like, you know, we have a small five-a-side, we have a 20 by 40 area in our school. Let us just do a small five-a-side tournament inside this. But we don't have money for the medals. That's fine. You can, even if you want, you can create your own medals. If you have a craft teacher, ask them to make a paper medal for the kids. Kids are not concerned about having the fancy medal around the neck or holding up a big trophy, but it's about giving them the opportunity. So create the environment, provide the opportunities for your students, and slowly, trust me on this from my experience, you will find the funding for your event. You will find it. When people see that you are dedicated, you are passionate, and that you are providing these opportunities for your students, you will find funding for your event. It will come from somewhere. You might find a parent who walks in and says, hey, coach, I see that you are struggling. Yeah, I want to support you. I'm giving you this money then. It will come to you. Trust me, it has happened to me in the past and it will happen to you in the future.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Another question is there, sir. How can we motivate juvenile delinquency child to participate in some activity so that they can do some extent, they can enjoy? How can we motivate the juvenile delinquency child to participate in sports activity?
Now, I want to get one thing clear now. When we say juvenile delinquent, we're talking about somebody who is in school for juvenile delinquents. Is this what we're talking about? We're not talking about a regular school. Because when you say a person is a juvenile delinquent, that means they are in what is called, I'm not getting the correct word, but it is a part of the criminal procedure, the process system. It's a part of the prison system. So now, there is a totally different aspect of physical education and a very important aspect of motivating students, children. When we talk about a juvenile delinquent, is somebody who's below the age of 18, because otherwise they go into the regular prison system. Yeah. So how do we, now this again, many of the schools which are dealing, there are special schools for juvenile delinquents, and some of them have got people who are PE teachers. And whoever has asked this question, thank you for bringing this up. But this is a very important aspect of the rehabilitation process. Nothing like sports. Nothing like sports. By providing sports opportunities, we are telling these people, we are telling these children that you are still a child that has to enjoy all the aspects of being physically active, even though you have committed something and you have been sentenced to that for this particular place. But please do not forget you are a child and enjoy sports. How can you do it? Depends again on the system in that particular place. Do they provide the opportunity for children to take part in sports? Can you have, there is a possibility there are 3 or 4 juvenile delinquent centers. You can create a system where they are participating in small competitions, bring them into those spaces and create competitions for them. And again, it becomes a team bonding. But there you always know that when children come into juvenile delinquent centers, there's a lot of aggression there, but you need to channel this aggression into sports. And sports would be a fantastic analysis for channeling this energy.
Thank you, sir. Sujit, sir.
Yeah, I think there are a few questions which are there, maybe of value. So one question was basically this was basically about if you have small spaces, how do you organize sports event?
Now, this, as I said, like, it's always the possibility that you are going to end up in a school with zero space or a small space. And now this comes down to planning. First thing is, how are you going to plan your PE timetable? Now, if you have a small space, I'm going to give an imaginary figure of a basketball court size place. And if the school decides to send out 3 PE classes at the same time with an average of 50 students inside that, that's 150 children on that space. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. So the planning has to start with the preparation of the timetable for if you want to have a quality PE program there. How are we going to use this? So that is where the key area is now with this limited resources, and how do we plan PE classes for small spaces? When we talk about PE classes for small spaces, we have to think more about doing skill-based activities for almost 50% of the class, where children are practicing skills in different teams. So if you're doing a basketball, let's say, for example, we are doing basketball and we are teaching them dribbling. So you want the children to be, they've got 50 in a class, you want 10 groups, 5 on either side, and they're working on their dribbling, going up the court one way and then coming back. So everybody is actively involved in the particular class.
So the question is more around events, Francis. I mean, actually, basically what you talked about, you can actually have dribbling itself as an event in case of small spaces, even if you cannot do a full basketball competition. Because the question is about if you have small spaces, how do you conduct sports events more than the PE class?
Sports events, okay. So now if you have small spaces, now this again comes down to modifications now. Now let's say if you have a basketball court size field and you want to do football, you can't play 11 aside there, but definitely you can play 5 aside. You can play 3 aside. You want to play cricket there? Yes, you can play cricket inside that. You can't play 11 aside cricket, but you can play 5 aside cricket. You can have modification where you say hit the ball over the wall, you're out, or one bounce to your court. So it's all about how you are going to work and find ways of creating a different kind of an environment by modifying the sport that you want to use into that small space. Modify it. Just modify a number of players, the way that you modify the rules. This is what you want to be looking at.
Absolutely. I think smaller format games and also skills can also become games in themselves.
Yeah.
There's one more question that from a sports event point of view, what are the kind of outcomes that they can put as a short term and long term? If we have outcomes of physical education, right? We talked about 3 different things as outcomes. What can be the possible outcomes from a longer term and short term point of view from a sports events point of view?
See, the first thing I always think of from sports events is is the loyalty to the team. When you talk about the school as a brand, the loyalty to the school, whenever you are having those sports events, so you have your house system. So it starts with your class and then your house and then the school. So this kind of team culture starts building in the school. And once you have a school that has got a team culture, you can always find that the long-term goals are going to be the very strong collaborative behavior, how children are going to be working in a cooperative environment with everybody. Second thing is about the school's image itself. In the long term, when you have a very strong team program, your school teams are strong. When you go outside and you represent your school at the highest level, it's not about the success rate, it's not about the results, but when people know that this particular school, School A, when they come out, that this is the quality of their players, this is the quality of their program, and this is how they show their sportsmanship, and this is how they show their preparation. So the whole long-term development of having sports events and participating in sports events outside is that you create a culture. The most important thing here is this culture that will be created in schools.
Right. One more thing how do you differentiate between boys and girls when it comes to sports events? What are the kind of things?
Now, as I said earlier, I would ideally talk about up to middle school. 6, 7, and 8. When we're talking about, that's when puberty issues are going to be a problem. Always look at having mixed gender events. But once the children come up into high school and they start identify themselves more with their own gender, we want to make sure that we are promoting the individuals, the sport for a particular gender, and giving children the opportunity to excel within their own gender group, and also create opportunities for them to participate in mixed gender programs. So there is a win-win situation where you are able to excel in your own gender group, and you are also able to improve your skills by participating in cross-gender programs.
Thank you. I think great answers. I think very informative session. Most of the participants are all loving it. Sanjay ji, over to you.
Thank you, sir. A million sincere thanks to you, sir, Sebastian, sir, for the sea of wisdom and knowledge that you have showered on our participants. Just I want to take a note to let you know that this was a real eye-opener session. And I think your lecture will put significant effect on our participants. So thank you so much, sir, for this session. I would like to extend my sincere thanks on behalf of Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Hello India, and Lakshmibai National College of Physical Education to you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for this outstanding lecture.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjay. Thank you, Sujit, for joining in. And a big thank you to Sports India, LNIP Trivandrum, for giving me this opportunity. And I wish everybody who has participated today the very best. Take care of yourselves. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you, sir. I also want to extend my sincere thanks to Sujit Panigrahi, sir. Whenever we see him, we feel support. All around the path, he's supporting to us.
It's all mutual. It's all mutual, I think.
Yeah, today I can see the positive vibes also.
Oh, thank you.
Behind you.
Back
So
back
thank you
at
so much,
office.
sir.
Yeah, thank you.
I also would like to extend my thanks to Dr. G. Kishore, sir. He is always there to support us. Thank you, sir. I would like to extend my thanks to all the participants for their attention throughout the session. So thank you, participants. Thank you each and everyone, those who are directly or indirectly involved with this online PN community coaching program. So thank you so much. Thank you. Namaste. Jai Hind, sir.
Namaste.